Being weird is a wonderful thing. Inspiration for living your truest self. Kathryn and Ross Petras. Introduction. Think you're a little wacky, kind of kooky? Well, we're here to remind you that, as actress Meryl Streep said, what makes you a little different or weird, that's the strength. Yes, in this book, especially created to celebrate what it means to be different, in other words, it's for those of us who think we're a little or a lot weird and like it. Being weird is a wonderful thing is a collection of thoughts from a wide range of people, philosophers, activists, physicists, and rappers, and actors and poets, perfect for those times when you need inspiration or cheerful reminders that you're perfectly and imperfectly, for that matter, fabulous, and don't need approval from anyone but yourself. These quotes allow us to reveal in our individuality and embrace our inner oddball. They encourage us to get in touch with our truest selves and accept everything from our strengths to our oh so human flaws that makes us different from everyone, to reveal in our uniqueness and to glory in our quirkiness. After all, as a singer Ed Sheeran said, being weird is a wonderful thing. There are more than 7.7 billion people on Earth right now, and there's not no one exactly like you. Isn't it time to celebrate the fact of that and allow yourself to be completely, unapologetically, and wonderfully weird? If you are always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you could be. Don't ever let a soul in the world tell you that you can't be exactly who you are. If you feel like a weirdo, it's okay because weirdos rule the world. I was made for another planet altogether. I mistook the way. Everything is possible for the eccentric. Stop being who you were and become who you are. To be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best night and day to make you everybody else means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight and never stop fighting. Always remember to see things in a new, weird way. Sometimes you have to play a long time to be able to play like yourself. Before you can give of yourself to others, you must know what of yourself you have to give. Every person is special. In all the land, there's only one of you, possibly two, but seldom more than 16. I'm not like any other of those I've seen. I venture to believe that I am not made like any of those who are in existence. If I am not better, at least I am different. Be happy with being you. Love your flaws, own your quirks, and know that you are just as perfect as anyone else, exactly as you are. I am weak, a feral creature made of mud and dreams, but I feel all the powers of the universe whirling within me. If you have never been called a defiant, incorrigible, impossible woman, have faith. There is yet time. Sing the melody, line your hair in your own head. Remember, you don't owe anybody explanations. Best advice I ever got was an old friend of mine, a black friend, who said, you have to go the way your blood beats. If you don't live the only life you have, you won't live some other life. You won't live any life at all. That's the only advice you can give anybody. And it's not advice. It's an observation. To all those who feel different, if you are part of a group that's called other, a group that does not get the chance to be center stage, build your own stage and make them see you. I like to be the right thing in the wrong place and the wrong thing in the right place. Being the right thing in the wrong place and the wrong thing in the right place, is it worth it? It's because something interesting will always happen. I will not apologize for my strength and the ways that it intimidates you. I will not tame my spirit and the way it howls. I will not be less. Flaws are my favorite part of people, usually. If you really need trust that you're on your own path, and as long as you stay true to it and you show up, showing up is 90% of it. I was pretty sure you'd be weird, but now that I've met you, I can honestly say that you're even weirder. Cherish your solitude. Take trains by yourself to places you've never been. Sleep out alone under the stars. Learn to drive a stick shift. Go so far away that you stop being afraid of not coming back. Say no when you don't want to. Do something. Say yes if your instincts are strong. Even if everyone else around you disagrees, decide whether you like to be admired. Decide if fitting in is more important than finding out what you're doing here. Believe in kissing. Don't ever think that don't ever think that just because you do things differently, you're wrong. You must not blame me if I do talk to the clouds. You're not going to tell me who I am. I'm going to tell you who I am. Be bold enough to live on your terms and never apologize for it, and leap before you look. Too much consistency is as bad for the mind as it is for the body. Consistency is contrary to nature, contrary to life. The only completely consistent people are the dead. What makes you different or weird? That's your strength. Normality. Show me normality, Senor Caballero, and I will show you an exception to the abnormal order of the universe. Show me a normal event, and I shall call it miraculous, because it is normal. I try to make everyone's day a little more surreal. Dance, though everybody is watching. March to the beat of your own drummer and stubbornly refuse to fit in. The goal is to become the unique, awesome, never to be repeated human being you were born and called to be. Everyone shines, given the right lighting. For some, it's Broadway spotlights. For others, it's a lamp-lit desk. They tell you that you'll lose your mind when you grow older. What they don't tell you is that you won't miss it very much. Even when it's not pretty or perfect, even when it's more real than you want it to be, your story is what you have, what you will always have. It's something to own. There's a point when you have to choose whether to be like everybody else the rest of your life or to make a virtue of your peculiarities. Either you can do what others want, or you can do what you want to do. That's an easy call. As long as we are not ourselves, we will always try to be what other people are. People always want to tell you how to do it, not to do it on your own way, and don't ask for oh, how can you do it? Do it. Figure it out. There's no list of rules. There's no one rule. The rule is there are no rules. Happiness comes from living as you need to, as you want to, as your inner voice tells you to do. Happiness comes from being what you actually are instead of who you think you're supposed to be. How many cares one loses when one decides not to be something, but to be someone? I prefer to be true to myself, even at the hazard of incurring the ridicule of others, rather than to be false and to incur my own aberrance. You deserve the best, the very best, because you are the one with the few people in this lousy world who are honest to themselves, and that this is the only thing that really counts. Self-censorship. It's insulting to thyself. Timidity is a hopeless way forward. Pinocchio went out into the world. He went out to the road filled with good intentions, with a vision. He went ready to do all the things he dreamed. But he was pulled this way and that. He was distracted. He was faltered. He made mistakes, but he kept on. Pinocchio in the end became himself, because in the little flame inside him, no matter what crap he went through, he would not be extinguished. We are all Pinocchio. Whatever you want to do, just do it. Don't worry about making a fool of yourself. Making a damn fool of yourself is absolutely essential. I'm different, not less. Creativity is at the heart of eccentricity. I have fear of labels. If someone labels me, I have to respond. Do I acknowledge it, reject it, deny it, live up to it, defy it? Labels can affect your ability to be yourself. If you're not careful, like I wasn't when I was young, that can take a toll on you. You find yourself conforming to everyone else's ideas of who you are. We are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about who we pretend to be. If people did not sometimes do silly things, nothing intelligent would ever get done. Always remember that you are absolutely unique, just like everybody else. You are not lucky to be here. The world needs your perspective. They are lucky to have you. No matter what I do, No matter how predictable I try to make my life, it will not be any more predictable than the rest of the world, which is chaotic. Always, I wanted a difference and an opposition. My eccentricity became directional. All through history, there has been these kind of divine losers that just take a deep breath and go ahead, knowing society's not going to understand it and not even caring because they're having a good time. Don't follow the path, go where there is no path and begin the trail. Follow your inner moonlight. Don't hide the madness. It's cool if you feel like my ship is sinking, but it's just, I want to make sure that I'm at the helm, that if I'm going to go down, it's because of myself. I'd rather boogie than try to fit in. If other people can't get with the boogie, I have no time for them. All people, African, European, American, worry about being different. But I've learned that the traits we'd rush to get rid of are the very ones that the others desire. People always covet of what they don't have. That's what we should be looking at in ourselves every now and then and say, I'm proud of myself, and I like the way that I am made. Some people never go crazy, but truly horrible lives they must live. I don't have any rules because I'd be breaking them. There is no power in weird because I know that you make your decisions, you stand in your knowledge of your own authenticity, and not many people can say that. There is power in weird. You can't write a script in your mind and then force yourself to follow it. You have to let it be yourself and yourself be. She was not a slow coach grown up. She was a girl who could not wait. Life was so interesting. She had to find out what happened next. We forfeit 3/4 of ourselves in order to be like other people. I'm not eccentric. It's just that I am more alive than most people. I am unpopular electric eel set in a pond of catfish. Being full of affection for one's goofy, self-centered, cranky, annoying self is home. It's where the world of peace begins. Want to fly? You got to give up that shit that weighs you down. Be warned in time and remain as I do. Incomprehensible. To be great is to be misunderstood. I was on the street. This guy waved to me and he came up to me and said, I'm sorry. I thought you were someone else. And I said, I am. Whenever you find yourself on the side of majority, it's time to reform or pause and reflect. Normal is the average of deviance. If I'm going to sing like someone else, then I don't need to sing at all. I have never listened to anyone who criticized my taste in a space travel, sideshows, or gorillas. When this occurs, I pack up my dinosaurs and I leave the room. Jump high, hard, with intention and heart. Pay no mind to the vision that the committee might make up of you. It's up to you to make up your life. You're a human being. You live once, and life is wonderful. So eat the damn red velvet cupcake. I don't think that loving yourself is a choice. I think that's a decision that you have to make up for survival. It was in my case loving myself. It was the result of answering two things. Do you want to live? Because this is who you're going to be for the rest of your life, or are you going to just have a life of emptiness, self-hatred, and self-loathing? And I choose to live, so I had to accept myself. Blame it or praise it. There's no denying the wild horse in us. Yesterday's weirdness is tomorrow's reason why. The world opened up for me once I decided to embrace who I am, unapologetically. My weirdness turned into my greatest strength in my life. You are allowed to be both a masterpiece and a work in progress simultaneously. Sooner or later, I do what I want to do. If a man does not keep his pace with the companions, perhaps it is because he has a different drummer. Let him step to the music which he hears, however measured or far away. It is not easy to be sure that being yourself is worth the trouble, but we do know it is our sacred duty. If there's any definition in being perfect, you're perfect at being yourself. A normal person is the sort of person that might be designed by a committee. You know, each person puts in a pretty color and it comes out gray. Your time is limited, so don't waste it in living someone else's life. Don't be trapped in a dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of other opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most importantly, have your courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. Pythagoras teachers amongst other excellent doctrines, this also walk not on the highways. This does not mean that we should climb steep hills. The school was not prescribing foot weariness, but it indicated by the figure that in our own words and deeds we should not follow popular and beaten tracks. Life's no piece of cake, mind you, but the recipe's my own to fool with. Ask yourself, if there was to be no blame and there was to be no praise, who would I be then? There's a whole category of people who miss out on not allowing themselves to be weird enough. You're only given a little spark of madness, and if you lose that, you're nothing. You have to dare yourselves and ourselves, however frightening or strange that self may prove to be, to dare ourselves. I prefer eccentricity over the bland. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Biology, physiology, we are not so different from each other historically as narratives. We are each of us unique. There's no escape. There's no one way to do things. There's no only one of your ways. And you can recognize that in yourself and accept and appreciate that in others. You can make magic. One person's craziness is another person's reality. You're either on the bus or off the bus. You're either on the bus, and if you get left behind, then you'll find it again. If you're off the bus in the first place, then it won't make you a damn. No matter what expected, the unexpected, and whenever possible, be the unexpected. No matter what, expect the unexpected, and whenever possible, be the unexpected. Everyone is different, and advice is a game of chance. Why would what changed me change you? How do I know how I changed anyway? And how do you know when you're finished? When you're finally you? How do you clock that moment? It's a pupa, a caterpillar, or a butterfly? Authenticity is a daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. Run from what is profitable and comfortable. Forget safety. Live where the fear is to live. Destroy your reputation. Be notorious. I have tried prudent planning long enough. From now on, I'll be mad. People who say they don't care what people think are usually desperate to have people think what they don't care what people think. We're all freaks sometimes, Melody, he replied. You're just well better at it than most. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. I've always loved the idea of not being what people expect me to be. I'm not going to die because I failed as someone else. I'm going to succeed as myself. Strive not for singularity in dress. Fools have the more and men of sense and less. To look original is not worthwhile, but be in mind a little out of style. My father was a proctologist. My mother was an abstract artist, and that's how I view the world. Wild women are unexplainable sparks of life. They ooze freedom, seek awareness. They belong to nobody but themselves, yet give a piece of who they are to anyone who they would want to meet. If you have met one, hold on to her. She'll allow you into her chaos, but she'll also show you the magic. It felt a little strange. Like, what do you mean I'm a freak? I'm surrounded by freaks. I'm weirder than the rest of them. Ultimately, I've learned to pride to myself on being quirky. Everybody's special. Everybody. Everybody is a hero, a lover, a fool, villain. Everybody has their story to tell. I just wanted to be myself. That's all I ever wanted, just to be myself. I don't like people telling me how to dress, how to comb my hair, how to set out. I didn't set out to hurt anybody else's feelings or to shock my parents in any of that. But, sometimes we make choices that seem to bother everybody but ourselves. Unless I'm myself, I am nobody. I'm not what other people say we are. We are who we know ourselves to be, and we are what we love, and that's okay. She was becoming herself and daily casting aside that fictitious self from which we assume like a garment with which to appear before the world. To love yourself right now, just as you are, is to give yourself heaven. Don't wait until you die. If you wait, you die now. If you love, you live now. Because in the end, you won't remember the time you spent working in the office or mowing your damn lawn. Climb the gosh darn mountain. The more I feel imperfect, the more I feel alive. Be yourself. Imitation is suicide. Great things are not accomplished by those who yield the trends and fads of popular opinion. Thank goodness for my education. It was neglected. I was never sent to school. It would have been rubbed off from some originality. I was made exactly the way I was meant to be, made in who I am, and my personality is the way I was born. The only people who can still strike us normal are those who we don't even know very well. All the good people are nuts. I don't care what you think about me. I don't think about you at all. Who wants to be normal when you could be unique? When your going gets weird, the weird turns pro. If you want something else to validate your existence, it will mean that it'll mean that I'm shortchanging myself. If I wait for someone else to validate my existence, it will mean that I'm shortchanging myself. What a desire to live in peace with that word, myself. Nature made us individuals, as she did the flowers and the pebbles, but we are afraid to be peculiar. And so in a society that resembles a bag of marbles or a string of mold candles, why should we all dress after the same fashion? The frost never paints my windows twice alike. It's not denial, I'm just selectively about the reality I accept. There is something in every one of you that waits and listens to the sound of the genuine in yourself. It is the only true guide you will ever have, and if you cannot hear it, you will all of your life spend your days on the ends of strings that somebody else is pulling. Today, you are the truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. It does not matter what 66% of people do in any particular situation. All that matters is what you do. Cherish forever what makes you unique, because you're really a yawn if it goes. I've always done whatever I want and always been exactly who I am. Do silly things. Foolishness is a great deal more vital and healthy than our straining and striving after a meaningful life. You're always the person you were meant to be, and you were born. You will just keep finding new ways to express it. Who looks inside the dreams? Who looks inside awakes. Your problem is you're too busy holding on to your unworthiness. Every one of us is the cosmic perspective, precious. If a human disagrees with you, let him live. In 100 billion galaxies, you will not find another. Nobody can be exactly like me, sometimes, even if I have trouble doing it myself. Always anybody can learn to think or believe or know, but not a single human being can be taught to feel. Why? Because whenever you think or you believe or you know, you're a lot of other people. But the moment you feel, you're nobody but yourself. It will do you no harm to find yourself ridiculous. Resign yourself to be the fool that you are. When you embrace your difference, your DNA, your look on heritage and religion, or your unusual name, that's when you start to shine. It's better to be hated for what you are than to be loved for what you are not. I'm not going to change the way that I look or the way that I feel to conform to anything. I've always been a freak, so I will always be a freak all my life, and I want to live with that, you know? I'm one of those people. A man needs a little madness, or else he'll never dare to cut the rope and be free. The real important thing is to be yourself. And to be yourself was yourself just as hard as you could. Be messy and complicated and afraid and show up anyways. Play like you play. Play like you think, then you've got it. If you're going to get it, and whatever you get, that's you. So that's your story. I have often thought the best way to define a man's character would be to seek out a peculiar mental or moral attitude in which, when it comes upon him, he felt himself most deeply and intensely active and alive. At such moments, there's a voice inside which speaks and says, "This is the real me." Oddity, like beauty, is the eye of the beholder. Be yourself, embrace your quirks. Being weird is a wonderful thing. You have no responsibility to live up to what other people think you ought to accomplish. You have no responsibility to be like they expect me to be. Accept no one's definition of your life. Define yourself. I don't care about anything not liking me. Your bitches barely like yourselves. Don't be the heaven's sakes. Don't, for heaven's sakes, be afraid of talking nonsense. You must pay attention to your nonsense. I start in the middle of a sentence and move both directions at once. Eccentricity has always abounded when and where strength of character has abounded, and the amount of eccentricity in the society has generally been proportional to the amount of genius, mental vigor, moral courage which is contained, and so much now dare to be eccentric. Mark your chief danger of the time. Once you become predictable, no one's interested anymore. If you're never weird when you're surrounded by people who are weird like you. You're never weird when you're surrounded by people who are weird like you. Be eccentric. Now don't wait to be old in age to wear the purple. I used to walk down the street like I was a superstar. I want people to walk around delusional about how great that they can be, and then fight so hard every day that they lie and it becomes the truth. The world is full of important ideas, but I follow my own mind. We're all a little weird, and life is a little weird. And when you find someone whose weirdness is compatible with ours, we join up with them and fall into mutual satisfying weirdness, and it's called true love. When in doubt, make a fool of yourself. It gives me great pleasure to indeed see the stubbornness of an incorrigible nonconformist warmly acclaimed. I haven't figured out the meaning of life, but I think we're all under construction, and I think everyone should be under construction. I am anti-entropy. My work is foursquare for chaos. I spend my life personally and my work professionally keeping the soup boiling. I like nonsense. It wakes up my brain cells. Fantasy is a necessary ingredient in living, and the way I'm looking at life through the wrong end of a telescope. Be yourself. The world will adjust. All the colors I am inside have not been invented yet. Let's celebrate each other and ourselves as we are, as we will be, and as we were meant to be. Unique, imperfect, beautiful, and so incredibly powerful. If anyone tells you there's a right way to do your life, they're wrong. Two roads diverge in the woods, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. There are so many more important things to worry about than how you're perceived by strangers. Normal is not nothing to aspire to. It's something to get away from. Where's your will to be weird? There are parts of me that will always remain untamable, messy, reckless, but I refuse to apologize for it to anyone. The opposite of courage is, our society is to not cowardice, it's conformity. Why not be oneself? This is the whole secret of successful appearance. If one is a greyhound, why try to look like a Pekingese? Note that this journey is uniquely yours, no one else's, so the path has to be your own. You cannot imitate somebody else's journey and still be true to yourself. You are prepared to honor your own uniqueness in this way. Are you prepared? The best advice I've ever received is, no one else knows what they're doing either. You owe it to yourself to figure out who you are and know who you are. But don't owe it to anyone else to explain it or even to defend it. Try to acquire the weird practice of savoring your mistakes, delighting in the uncovering of strange quirks that led you astray. Then, when you've sucked out all the goodness to be gained from having made them, you can cheerfully forget them and go on to the next big opportunity. My definition of stupid is wasting your opportunity to be yourself. When you know who you are free. The thing is to not follow pattern. Follow your own pattern or feeling of that thought. The thing is to accept your own life, not to try to live like someone else's life. Live in the thumbprint. It's not like any other. The thumbprint is and what you must go by. The hardest thing to do is to be true to yourself, especially when everybody else is watching. Embrace what makes you unique, even if it makes others uncomfortable. I didn't have to become perfect, but because I've learned throughout my journey that perfection is the enemy of greatness. If you only read the books that everyone else is reading, you could only think about what everyone else is thinking. A certain amount of opposition is a great help to a man. Kites rise against the wind. Even Even the head wind is better than nothing. No man ever worked his voyage anywhere in a dead calm. The reward of conformity is that everyone likes you except yourself. I'll probably never fully become what I wanted to be when I grew up, but that's probably because I wanted to be a ninja princess. The free soul is rare, but you know it when you see it, basically because you feel good, very good, when you are near with them. Isn't that something incredible about the fact that when you feel left out, you shouldn't, that somehow it makes us all feel a little less alone? Do not try to inhabit another soul. You have your own. I'm a total weirdo and I have often felt like an outcast and a freak, and I love that. It makes things so much more exciting. I have always done things in my own way, which at once, the way that becomes naturally to me. It's an honest, sincere, genuine, unforced, but also perverse, also through the must remembering that this word means thought, as in verse, poetry, out of the way and wayward, which is surely towards the way. The thing that is really hard and really amazing is giving up on being perfect and beginning work on becoming yourself. Embrace your differences and the qualities about you that you think are weird. Eventually, they're going to be the only thing separating you from everybody else. At a certain point, I realized that I don't exist, so I said to myself, if the I doesn't exist, I have to construct one, or maybe even more than one. It is no use telling me to be calm. To me, that conveys sitting with my hands in my lap, looking forward to broth we are having for supper. My soul is a passionate dancer. She dances in the hidden music, which only I can hear. Whatever police in the world may prescribe to the rule, the soul, I refuse to obey them. Never be limited by other people's limited imaginations. The creative is the place where no one else has ever been. It is not the previously known. You have to leave the city of your own comfort and go into the wilderness of your intuition. You have to get there by bus, only to hard work and risk, and not by quit knowing what you're doing. But what you'll discover will be your wonderful. What you'll discover will be yourself. Do your thing. Don't care if they like it. The world thinks eccentrically. In the great things is genius, but in small things it's only crazy. Speak out to what you believe and what you feel, or don't. You have to live with yourself. Always be a first-rate version of yourself, instead of second-rate versions of somebody else. I am somebody. I am me. I like being me. I don't have to be perfect. All I have to do is show up, enjoy the messy, imperfect, and beautiful journey of my life. I swear that each of us keeps battened down inside of himself, sort of a lunatic giant, impossible socially, but full scale, and that it's knockings and batterings we sometimes hear in each other that keep our intercourse from our utter banality. I like myself. I like my story, and all the bumps and bruises that makes me uniquely to myself. The individual has always had to struggle to keep being overwhelmed by the tribe. To be your own man is a hard business. If you try, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened, but no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. There's nothing more awful, insulting, and depressing than banality. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs and the square holes, the ones who see things differently, the not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify them, vilify them about the only thing you can do. The only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may seem as the crazy ones, we see genius, because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. I really believe, or want to believe, really, I'm nuts, otherwise I'll never be sane. Some are born weird, some achieve it. Others have weirdness thrust upon them. I think a lot of the times we misunderstand the idea of being ourselves with choosing one thing that you are staying true to. I think we human beings, we evolve so much and so quickly that we can be a lot of different things at the same time. You don't have to be just one thing. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to grow from things that make up your history. You are all of your experiences. Every phase that you go through is a part of you. We all been called freaks before and laugh. When I hear the word, I hear somebody I would probably like to meet and I'd probably get along with. There's something good about being ordinary. People don't respect you for it. There's nothing good about being ordinary. People don't respect you for it. People run after people who are different, who have confidence in their own taste, who don't run into the herd. There's nothing gained by giving in to the pressure of group vulgarity. My mother told me to be a lady, and for her, that meant to be your own person, to be independent. When you find your path, you must not be afraid. Nonconformity is the highest evolutionary attainment of social animals. The surest defense against evil is extreme individualism, and originality of thinking, whimsicality, even if you will, eccentricity. That is something that can't be feigned, faked, imitated, something even a seasoned imposter couldn't be happy with. Normal is nothing more than a cycle on a washing machine. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. I want to say when I was little, like Maleficent, I was told I was different and I felt out of place and too loud and too full of fire. I was never good at sitting still, never good at fitting in. And then one day I realized something I had hoped you all realize. Different is good. When someone tells you that you are different, smile and hold your head up and be proud. Yield not 1 inch to all the forces which conspire to make you an echo. The time will come when the elation you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each with a smile at the others will welcome. To be beautiful means to be yourself. You don't need to be accepted by others. You need to accept yourself. Don't try so hard to fit in, and certainly don't try so hard to be different. Just try hard to be you. You are so busy being you that you have no idea you utterly, unprecedentedly, you are. Whatever you do, be different. Nothing I accept about myself can be used against me to diminish me. I am who I am, doing what I can do, acting upon like a drug or a chisel to remind you of your own meanness as I discover you in myself. As the Greek sensibly believed, you should get to know yourself. You will have penetrated as much of the human mystery as anyone ever needed to know. I can do anything I want. I'm eccentric. Only the people who are the mad ones, the ones who are mad to live, mad to talk, mad to be saved, desirous of everything at the same time, the ones who will never yawn or say a commonplace thing, but burn, burn, burn like fabulous yellow Roman candles exploding like spiders across the stars. If we are not regularly deeply embarrassed by who we are, the journey to self-knowledge hasn't even begun. What sets you apart can sometimes feel like a burden, and it's not. And a lot of the time, it's what makes you great. The key to self-generated happiness, the only reliable kind, is the refusal to take oneself too seriously. Just be proud of yourself. Let people see the real, imperfect, flawed, quirky, weird, beautiful, magical person that you are. If someone invented a thermometer that measured weirdness, it'd probably melt under my tongue. Originality exists in every individual because each of us differs from the others. We are all prime numbers, divisible only by ourselves. Most people are other people. Their thoughts are someone else's opinions. Their lives are mimicry. Their passions are quotation. Find out who you are and then do it on purpose. We're all pretty bizarre. Some of us are just better at hiding it. That's all. One of the things I've said before in interviews is, without deviation from the norm, progress is not possible. In order for us to deviate successfully, one has to have at least a passing acquaintance with whatever norm one expects to deviate from. It's okay to be weird, and maybe your weird is normal, but who's to say? The eccentric never changes themselves, never even contemplates doing that. They're their own true, their own nature, and as far as they're concerned, the rest of society can either like them or not. Everybody's a train wreck in their own ways, special ways, but there's something wild and free about someone who's unapologetic, who knows their own wreck and doesn't even try to hide it, just bulldozes right on through life. Do not let what you think they think of you make you stop and question everything that you are. I was not born to be forced to breathe after my own fashion. Let us see who is the strongest. You are unique, and if that is not fulfilled, then something has been lost. At the end of the day, if you're not being your own authentic self, one day you will wake up and you won't be able to even find that person anymore. Never forget, a stranger said to me once in the lobby of Midland Hotel of Manchester, that only dead fish swim with the stream. I know the dark delight of being strange. It's normal to be weird. The color of one's creed, neckties, eyes, thoughts, manners, speech, is to meet someone in time of space with a fatal objection from a mob that hates that particular tone, and the one who's brilliant. The more unusual the man, the nearer he is to stake. Stranger always rhymes with danger. The meek prophet, the enchanter in his cave, the indignant artist, the non-conforming little schoolboy, all share in the same sacred danger, and this being so, let us bless them. Let us bless the freak for the natural evolution of things, the ape from who prefers and perhaps never has been able to become a man had not a freak appeared in the family. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. I find only freedom in the realms of eccentricity. I'd rather be a lightning rod than a seismograph. No need to hurry, no need to sparkle, no need to be anybody but oneself. Who I am, and the essence of me, and the things I can choose to do as a grown-ass person. Can I inspire you to do the same? You don't have to be like me. You don't have to be like you. And you need to be like you. And never ever let somebody stop you or shame you from being yourself. We were the way we were, and we didn't want to be anything else. Don't scorn your life just because it's not dramatic, or it's impoverished, or it looks dull, or it's a workaday. Don't scorn it. It's where poetry is taking place. If you've got the sensitivity to see it, if your eyes are open. If you don't see the book you want on the shelves, write it. The greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to yourself. I am fairly certain that giving up a cape and a nice tiara, I would save the world. I am fairly certain that given a cape and a nice tiara, I would save the world. Often warn kids, somewhere along the way, someone is going to tell you there's no I in team, and that you should tell them that maybe not, but there's an I in independence, individuality, and in integrity. Let me listen to me, and not all of them. It's okay to be eccentric. It's not okay to be rude and a dirty eccentric. We're all snowflakes. Each of us are unique, but it's still pretty hard to tell us apart. It ain't what they call you. It's what you answer to. Individuality is freedom lived. I don't explain anything. I live the life I've wanted. I soundly believed in all of this, and I held on. The theme you choose may change or simply elude you. But being your own story means that you can always choose the tone. It always means that you can invent the language to say who you are and what you mean. The important thing is to realize that no matter what people's opinions may be, there's only just that, people's opinions. You have to believe in your heart what you know to be true about yourself, and let that be. When you're creating your own shit, man, even the sky ain't the limit. I came up with the sparkly human theory a few years ago, but there was just some people in the world who sparkle from the inside out. When you're the one of those types of people, the world responds positively to you. It's not naivety. It's, I'm a fucking badass, and you guys can either come on this journey or not. You can't be hesitant about who you are. I want you to stay close on the edge. I want you to stay close on the edge as I can without going over. On the edge, you can see all kinds of things you can't see from the center. Eccentric doesn't mean eccentric. Being a poetic interpretation of what mathematical terms meaning something that doesn't follow the lines, and well, that's also okay. Being brave enough to be unapologetic for those and for who you are, that's a god. It's like, who wants to be a robot? The most courageous act is to still think for yourself aloud. Once upon a time, there was a crooked tree and a straight tree, and they grew next to each other, and every day the straight tree would look at the crooked tree and say, "You're crooked. You've always been crooked, and you'll continue to be crooked. But look at me, said the straight tree. I'm tall and I'm straight." And then one day the lumberjacks came onto the forest and looked around, and the manager in charge said, "Cut all the straight trees down." And the crooked tree still there to this day, growing strong and growing strange. It was when I realized I needed to stop trying to be somebody else and I began to become myself that I actually started to own, accept, and love what I had. Nobody realizes that some people expend tremendous energy merely just to be normal. Unless you're ashamed of yourself now and then, you're not even honest. Taking into account the people, the public's regrettability, lack of taste, it is incumbent upon you not to fit in. So many people are concerned with being the perfect something, whether it's the perfect singer, perfect sexy girl, perfect feminist. I don't want to be perfect anything. The most important kind of freedom is to be who and what you really are. You trade in your reality for a role. You trade in your senses for an act. You give up your ability to feel and exchange, and you just seem to put on a mask. The most important kind of freedom is just to be who you are. Do not fear to be eccentric in opinion, for every opinion now accepted was once eccentric. You were made to be yourself. Someone will always pop up to say, you could be more effective if you were nicer. You would have been more receptive audience if you adjusted your tone. You catch more flies with honey. Well, I don't want flies. The most likable woman in the world is crawling with fucking flies. Self-love, my liege, is not so vile a sin as self-neglecting. Being unique is very easy, and often by the time culture catches up with you, there are only a few people who notice. Being unique is never very easy. Once you know who you are, you don't have to worry anymore. Eccentricity may be merely the warping of conventional thought, like wearing a tuxedo to breakfast. I'll be called so many different labels, and I've been in and out of fashion that I don't even care. I just do my work. I would dream of following fashion. And then I wouldn't dream of following fashion. How could one be so different in this way in only a few months? One of those regular weird people. I'm one of those regular weird people. Rebel children, I urge you, fight the turgid stick of conformity with which they seek to smother your glory. You are imperfect permanently and inevitably flawed, but you are beautiful. Age has given me what I was looking for my entire life. It gave me me. It provided me the time of experiences and failures and triumphs and friends. It helped me step into the shape that I have been waiting for all my life. I have become the person I hardly dared imagine. I have become the person I hardly dared imagine I could be. All of us alive are survivors, but how many of us transcend the survival? People always ask where we're going. Not really knowing ourselves, we answer, I'm just going in the right direction. All human beings have their otherness, and it's that which cries out from the heart. How dull is it to have people defining you? Don't try to be normal, try to be yourself. This whole world is wild at heart and weird on the top. Hobbes, if you couldn't find anything or find any weirdness, maybe we'll just have to make some. Calvin, now you're talking. Embrace the freak that you are. Wherever you go, you take yourself with you. I'm always as a weird child. My mother told me the story that in kindergarten I would come home and tell her about this weird kid in my class who drew only with black crayons and didn't speak to any other kids. And I talked about how my mother brought it up with the teacher who said, what? Oh, that's your son. It's always nice when the eccentrics show up. The only approval you need is your own. I was once afraid of people saying, who does she think she is? Now I have the courage to stand and say, well, this is who I am. Don't ever stop believing in yourself. You're amazing, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Sleep with your eyes wide, open wide. Dreams with your hand. Dream out loud. Sing out until your voice grows roots, trunks, branches, birds, and stars. May your trails be crooked, winding, lonesome, dangerous, leading to the most amazing view. May your mountains rise till they are above the clouds. Being weird is a wonderful thing. Inspiration for living your truest self by Kathryn and Petras. Read by Reta.